So I'd like to show you how I went about the sort of brainstorming process for this project. And looking at some of the pictures that I found, I did have to go back and find a few more to really fill out my ideas the way that I had planned, but I ended up coming up with 3 totally different ideas based on my resource pictures. And I want to walk you through sort of my thought process for how I came up with those. So the first image that I really loved was this little boy drawing, and I thought it would just look really cool if I had him maybe like up in the sky almost, drawing all sorts of interesting things down below. And I also really loved this archway. So I thought, what if I put those 2 images together? And then with that archway, what if it were alone and there wasn't this wall and then all the stuff behind it, but it was just the arch? And I thought, what if I have like this cool landscape running like back behind and through that archway? So I thought that would be pretty cool. So that was sort of my starting point for the first idea I'm going to share with you. So, and just so you can kind of see, I've already sketched this out in pencil just so you have a good idea. So I started out with a little boy up here. He's going to be sketching, and I'm trying to figure out, I want something small right here for him to actually be physically drawing, but I haven't found that yet. But I'm still working on that part of the idea. But I wanted to have the little boy up here on this top corner, especially since in the image the top of his foot was cut off, and I can't just make up what the foot looks like and have it look realistic. So by placing him up there at the top, it makes sense for the top of his foot to be cut off since he's at the top of the page. So I started with him and then added in my archway and then added in the landscape back behind it. So that was really just 3 images together: the little boy, the archway, and the landscape. And I wanted to try to figure out an interesting way to work some more things into it to meet my minimum of 5. So I flipped through one of my bird watching magazines and I found this great picture of an owl in flight. And I thought it would be neat to add the owl where it looks like he's flying like in front of and kind of through this archway. I thought that would look really cool. And then the last thing that I decided to add from that old vintage National Geographic magazine, I found this really cool image of all these sailboats. And since in the landscape, this part right here was water, I thought that would be perfect if I added in and traced some of the sailboats. And now I didn't use exactly the sailboats exactly as they were arranged on here. One of the things you're going to be able to do is to sort of manipulate and change and alter your images. So I traced that one right there. And then I shifted, let's see, I traced this front one down here. I traced that little sailboat right there, and then those 2 right there. So those 3 were all in the same position, but I did have to move the drawing to find a good placement for that tiniest one, and then this one up here in the foreground. But I thought sort of adding those sailboats on, if this whole area becomes water, I thought that would be really cool for that first idea. So that is one of my ideas laid out. Now I still need to sort of fill out some stuff here. I think I may add some branches coming down from one of these other pictures just to kind of fill that out so that way it's not so empty. But that's one bare bones basic idea. So the next idea that I had was I was flipping through a different magazine and I found this really gorgeous picture of a bride with the really pretty sort of flowing veil from just one of my old bridal magazines. I sort of forgot that I had it, but I just started searching around trying to find some more images that I could work with. And I started with that as my starting point. And then I started flipping through and I found this bird image next and thought that that would be really gorgeous, that sort of tern flying from the bird magazine. So I placed it in front, and I like the sort of juxtaposition of how much bigger that bird is than the girl. I thought that that was kind of neat. And I was trying to figure out what I could do around them. And then I remembered that I had this, just this floral print design that I thought was pretty cool. And so what I ended up doing, the design didn't match exactly what I wanted. So I ended up taking parts of it and I traced one section, just the area that I wanted, and then rotated it and traced another section. And I kind of just moved it section by section until I could get the flowers layered in the way that I wanted. So I might have taken, you know, this part of this leaf to add into, you know, a separate section of a different flower. But just to get that arranged the way that I wanted, I thought it'd be really pretty to sort of have those layered in and rotate. And I might even add more and sort of fill in this whole bottom section and make a really pretty rayed section of flowers. I like this, again, the change in scale where she's much smaller and the small things are really, really big. And so again, that was just 3 pictures, but I needed at least 2 more. So I kept flipping through my bird book and I came across this image. So I sort of turned it to make it work better because I didn't want it to go behind her head. So I tilted the image a little bit and drew in this bird here. And I ran into an issue where the branch wasn't quite long enough to fill in this section. So I'll show you what I did. I traced it. So I traced the branch and the branch stopped there and I needed just a little bit more. So then I simply shifted the branch up and drew it a second time. And that extended it just long enough to where it looks like it disappears behind her. And then last but not least, I thought I would incorporate some of those small flying away birds in the distance from this advertisement that I found. And that gives me 5 images. I could keep adding and filling in, but just sort of an idea to kind of show you how to start merging and combining pictures together. And then the third idea that I had was to work from this chair image, which I absolutely loved. I thought that chair was really, really cool, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with it to start with, but I thought it would be neat if I had a bird, since I had so many bird pictures in my magazine, if I had a bird perching on that chair. So for that one, I took this little bird from this image and matched it up to where it worked out really well, where I could make his feet look like they were wrapping around the top edge of that chair. So that worked out perfect. So the chair and the bird. And then I reused the cityscape in the background from this magazine advertisement. One picture can be used multiple times in different ways, but I like that to sort of set up a background area. And then I started adding in a branch. I turned this magazine image and traced just this part of that branch, but I think I would add some more, you know, maybe add this one sort of coming down, do some more things to sort of fill up that top corner. And then last but not least, I found a new and different picture, this advertisement with the planes flying. I thought that was pretty cool, so I added that on this side. So that kind of gives you 3 different ideas. And again, I just quickly laid these out in pencil just so you could have an example of how those images start working together. But the idea of layering, drawing one, and then if you want to put another one on top, like I did this bird, I simply erased where her dress and arm went through the bird and put the bird on top, layering things back behind, multiplying things, drawing things more than once, shifting things, adding and deleting to get all the parts to fit and work together the way that you want. There's a lot of different things that you can do. And there's also one additional trick that I wanted to show you. Since we're going to be working on tracing paper, we're going to be drawing it out first just in pencil. We could take our image, but flip our tracing paper over, line it up where you wanted it, okay. And then that would allow me to draw that where it's on the opposite side going in the opposite direction. That's another really cool trick that you can do, is if you need to have an image be in reversed is just, while it is just in pencil, flip your tracing paper over, draw on the back side, and then when you flip it over, it's in reverse. So that's a pretty cool trick. So today what I want you to do is start looking through your images and figuring out how you want those images to interact together. Again, I think it's easiest if you start with just 2 or 3 pictures that you like and that you want to figure out how to make them work. Kind of start with an idea and then incorporate the 4th and the 5th pictures to it. So now that I've walked you through my thought process for figuring out how to visually combine and join multiple images together, that was just sort of my thought process and visualizing that. So I've given you 3 different examples of ideas that I've come up with based on the pictures that I found. And now it is your turn to look through your pictures and figure out how you want to combine them together into one picture. Now I gave you 3 ideas, but you only have to come up with 1. So I think I'm going to narrow mine down and choose this one to show you what your next step is going to be. Now you will not be drawing it out on tracing paper yet. I only did that so that way I could show you what it looks like, so that way you could visualize it with me. But I want to show you now as if I'm in your shoes and I've mentally thought out my picture in my head. I know which images I want to combine together, and I'm going to show you how to do what is called a thumbnail sketch. Now, a thumbnail sketch is a very quick, light, not very pretty, rough draft of the layout of your page. It is not meant to take a lot of time. It is not meant to look good. You are not spending a long time on this. All this is meant to do is to help you figure out where those things are going to be compared to one another once we get to our final piece of tracing paper. So for my composition, I believe mine is going to be a vertical composition. So very, very loosely and just kind of with big messy marks, I'm going to make a nice large rectangle. So that's pretty big. That's a pretty good size. And I'm going to use this as just my planning rough draft. So since I do want to take into account the rule of thirds, I'm going to give myself a very light rule of thirds just to help me visualize. Again, notice this is very messy. This does not have to be neat. It should be very loose like this. That's totally fine. But now that I've got that design, now I need to figure out where I'm going to place things. And obviously, I think my person, my girl, is going to probably be the main focal point. And if I compare her size to how much space she takes up on my tracing paper, that 8 by 10, I think I'll offset her. I don't want to put her right in the middle because, of course, that's really, really boring. So I think what I'll do is instead is shift her over to the right and put her on the right rule of thirds. Now I want you to look. I'm going to just, with a quick glance at this picture, I don't know, there's her face maybe, there's her hair. Okay. Swoops. Okay, yeah. So there's my super quick, rough sketch of my person. That's about where I want to place her. I'm going to put her on the rule of thirds, and then that way, hopefully, I can get her torso and face. I think I want that area to be my focal point, so I'm locating that right there on the upper right intersection point of the rule of thirds. Now, next, I know I'm going to be using some of these cool flowers and having them like rotate out from around like you saw before. So I'm not really going to take a whole lot of time. I'm just going to say, hey, here's some flowers. Please look, guys, this does not have to be beautiful, but I think I'll just have those rotate around there. And you can see it's very loose, but this is just me mentally planning, taking that mental plan and physically just sketching it out so I know what I'm gonna do. As an artist, this is a really important process to get pretty good at doing. The more that you can plan now, the better it's going to be for your final product, because you'll probably work out a lot of the problems at this stage, and then you maybe won't have as many mess ups or hiccups or problems that you run into later. And so next, I know I want to add my bird somewhere. So again, just kind of glancing at my picture. He's got a cool tail. Bird, bird, somewhere in there. Now the next image that I wanted to work with, because again, that's only 3 so far. I've got 1, 2, 3. I need at least 5. So the next image I found when I was working on this idea was to add in this bird, and I had that one sort of come out and had that branch go up and off, and then have that cute little bird. Somewhere around there. I sort of like the visual movement that that branch is going to bring, kind of moving that down. So now that's 4 pictures, and then the last image, I'm going to add some little small birds back there in the background. And, you know, and I can add some other places if I need to fill things in. And so I can just move that image around the page and figure out where I want those to go. So this is my very rough, very loose thumbnail sketch. Notice I did not take the time to draw details. I'm just looking for the placement and seeing if I can have a focal point beyond the rule of thirds is really what I'm trying to figure out. And so the last thing that you're going to do today is create your own thumbnail sketch, figuring out how you want your 5 pictures to work together and what you want to be on your rule of thirds. Remember, it doesn't have to be beautiful. It can be quick, it can be messy. It's just you figuring out your plan. It's just like creating a rough draft. So you're going to photograph your thumbnail sketch today, and tomorrow we will start the official drawing in pencil on our good tracing paper.